All right, good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. Thank you for attending this month's series of our advisor and advising training sessions. We are focusing a lot this year on advising in Workday, and we're really deep diving down into what Workday has available on the academic side of things. We are looking at maybe some things that you may or may not know that is at your fingertips in Workday. Hopefully, things over the next 9 months that will help to make life more efficient for you on the advising side of things in Workday. Really trying to find ways to go ahead and save time because I know how busy everybody's schedule is. And so, first of all, let me go ahead and I think everybody on here pretty much knows me. I'm Glenn Meals. I am the director of advising. I have been here for uh, 33 years. This is my 33rd year on campus working. And then, actually, if I include my time as a student, this is my 37th year on campus. I started out in the registrar's office where I worked most of those 33 years. And then I moved up here when we opened the Euler Success Center as the University of Findlay's first director of advising. Our goal, our mission in advising here, obviously, is to try to make sure that we help students get through degrees, as well as allow them to succeed and maybe look at some things to add in along the way that will enhance some of the goals that they have set for themselves. I feel like, I have a good understanding with that 37 years of experience on campus. We have changed advising dramatically over the years. From when I was a student, when we would have did arena scheduling over in the Alumni Memorial Union, and if any of you were around back then, I called that sort of survival of the fittest. Elbows and anything was allowed just so that you got a sticker to get your seat in the class. To where we are now today, where students are able to register themselves, a little bit more efficient. And so hopefully we keep finding ways to go ahead and improve the system. So, with that, we're going to start today with a definition on advising. And this is a very long definition. I am not going to read it to you guys, but obviously, I'm just going to sort of point out the highlights by me, what I feel at the University of Findlay, as well as sort of what NACADA, the National Academic Advising Organization, says are the high points of advising. And obviously, we all know that the very first thing is relationship building and building that relationship not only with our advisees, but between the faculty, staff, anybody that comes in contact with a student is advising that student in some way. It can be an administrator, it can be a staff member, it can be uh, a faculty member, it can be a coach. Everybody has some sort of advising that they are doing mentoring with students on our campus. And how we go about building that relationship ultimately defines how likely we are to go ahead and retain that student and also, more importantly, help them along to their ultimate goals that they want to achieve in 4, 5, or 6 years, depending on the programs that they're in. Next slide. So we've talked a little bit about our goals for this training series. This year, like I said, we are really working on that relationship through Workday between not only the faculty, but also the student. And we're going to do, I've heard over the last number of years, the biggest question that has been posed to me is, I see my side of things, but I can't tell what students are seeing on their side of things. So we're going to look at both sides today and throughout the next 9 months a little bit so that you get a better understanding of what the students are looking at as well. Hopefully, by doing this, we're going to not only empower you as employees to utilize Workday a little bit easier and a little more efficiently for yourselves, and hopefully find you some extra time through the advising side of things, but we're also going to try to empower students to reach their goals by utilizing the resources at their fingertips. Next slide. So, but tonight's workday as tools, we have Starfish, and we'll be doing some presentations again on Starfish a little bit later on. We have the Euler Success Center, which everybody knows about, centrally located first floor of Old Main. Obviously, me as the director of advising. I also have my staff of assistant directors over here, as well as faculty coaches. Then we also have the Academic Support Center in Old Main, as well as career planning and internships. And these are all tools, plus there's many others across campus. I can't list them all out on a slide, but it's good to know just what we have available to us in the advising realm. Now, why is that important to know those tools? Because it allows us to be a little bit more meaningful and productive in our advising appointments. It helps us to help our students as we start to help them navigate throughout their first semesters or sophomore, junior, senior year. And so knowing those tools, knowing what help mechanisms are there, always important. Learning how the tools can be used to save us time. And like I said, that's what we're really focused on, is how can we make life more proactive, more efficient, and buy you hopefully a little bit of extra time in your guys' busy schedules of teaching and research and coaching and all sorts of things. Tools will help us improve the efficiency and productivity while also allowing us to make life more proactive for our students and our staff, as well as hopefully allowing the students to be more successful as we go along. Next slide. So today we're going to go ahead and really look at Workday, and we're going to start at the very beginning, and we'll work our way through over the next 9 months. So I have some co-presenters with me today, Anthony Salisha in the registrar's office, and I also have Liz Sable as well. And so I'm going to turn it over to you, Anthony.
Thanks, Glenn. My name is Anthony Salisha. I'm the registrar here at the University of Findlay. And I'm just taking a moment here to basically refresh some of my screen so that I don't get logged out of Workday. The plan is to go through a PowerPoint, but also do some live demonstrations and then also show a couple of videos as we talk about the topic of Workday Student and really the primary differences between what you will see as you and I see as advisors, students, or helping students through the registration process, and then what a student actually sees in Workday. And I've narrowed it down to two main areas that we want to talk about. And one is the academics dashboard. That's where the student goes pretty much right after they get in, right after they log into Workday and get to the homepage. They go to their academics dashboard for almost everything else that they would want to get to. So we'll take a look at what that looks like for them. And then we'll also look at the registration process from planning registration and doing a draft schedule to actually registering for classes, and then to some of the issues and errors that a student might encounter when they're going to register. The first topic is the academics dashboard. This slide just gives a little bit of an outline of what students can view and do from their academics dashboard. This next slide is actually a screenshot of what a student's academics dashboard looks like. And the color-coded boxes that are around each area, that's not in Workday. That's something that I've applied here to kind of break down what the academics dashboard, how it's kind of configured. So the first box in the upper left corner, uh, the burgundy color, I'm going to skip for now because that's those topics in there are actually covered in other places on this academics dashboard. In the red box, there's a academic progress overview, just kind of giving a general overview of the students' programs and how far along they are in each of the programs. They can dive into further detail on the academic progress report and on other places in this um, academics dashboard. Beneath that in the yellow box is a support network window that shows the student who their primary and secondary advisors are, faculty advisors, as well as who their financial aid counselor is. Beneath that is a green box that shows the student their current classes and the meeting times and patterns of those classes. In the middle at the top, there's a holds window that shows the student all of their current holds. And we'll talk a little bit more about and dive a little bit deeper into how to understand holds. But again, this is what a student sees on their academics dashboard, things that they need to resolve. Um, Beneath that is a registration appointments window that shows the student when they can begin registering for upcoming academic periods. So in this case, a student still has a window of time when they can register for the fall 8 week, uh, the second 8 week block, but also they have registration appointments now for their for the upcoming spring terms as well. So their registration date you can see there is October 15th at 7 a.m. And then last but not least is a window that has a purple border that is a custom list of reports and tasks that students can do. And I say custom is because it's not something that was delivered by Workday, but it's something we've put together that tries to capture all of the other um, tasks and things that a student might need to do from an academic standpoint in Workday. So there is at the top a Find Course Sections report link, so they can go look at what course sections are available. They have links to look at their draft course schedules, something we'll look a little bit more at later in the second part of this presentation, but they can get there directly from this academics dashboard. They can change their third-party permissions, so if they have friends or family that they've identified as a third party, they can give that person access to different parts of their records from the academics dashboard. They can get to their academic plan. They can get to their academic progress report, a fuller, more detailed report on their academic progress. They can apply for graduation. They can access various forms here, again, custom forms that we've built here at the University of Findlay that weren't ones that Workday delivered to us as part of their standard program. So we have forms to change an advisor, to request a credit hour overload for registration purposes. Students can complete a leave of absence or withdrawal request from this page. They can also request a prerequisite override. So a number of various forms there. And then also they can access unofficial and official transcripts from this screen. So it's really supposed to be a one-stop shop for students to, when they get into Workday, go to their academics dashboard and then access everything from here. So you'll have a copy of this PowerPoint and this slide that you can reference if you are wanting to point a student to a certain place on the academics dashboard. The next thing I wanted to do is give a side-by-side of what it looks like when you're on a student's profile, which is where you and I land when we go to look at a student's record. As we land on the student profile, you'll notice that the blue color here in this pane on the left side has changed to an all white background. So that's one difference that that has just changed in Workday. So don't be thrown off by this. Is still the student's profile. And I'll zoom out just a little bit. On the right side of the screen, I have a student. I'm logging in as a student in our test system here, and I'll go to their academics dashboard so that we can do just a quick side-by-side to show where we would access information versus where a student accesses information. So Over here to the far right is that purple, the equivalent of that purple window here where they can access things like their academic progress report. So if I click on this link for on the student's academics dashboard, they're going to get to their academic progress report. Whereas from the student profile, when we click on academics and along the top go to academic progress, that's how we see their academic progress report. It's the same information, just a different way of getting there, but really the view is the same once you get to the academic progress report. Next, we looked at there's a support network window where a student can see who their advisors are, and I have that here on the right side. For us, when we're on a student's profile, we can go again under academics to support network, and we see similar information. We can see the student's primary and secondary advisors. It's the same information, just a different place to get there. The student can see their current classes, which we see on their student profile under current classes. As far as their holds, a student can get their can see their holds here on the academics dashboard, and we can see it under action items and holds. And by clicking on active holds, we can see the holds that a student has. A couple other things we talked about: a student being able to see their registration appointments right here on their academics dashboard. We can see their academic appointments or registration appointments a couple of different places. If you're on a student profile, we would see it on their academic plan under on this little link here of the registration appointment, so we can see that same information. It can also be seen if you're looking at one of your advisees, you can see that information on your some of your advising reports on your advisor dashboard that we'll look at in a future session. And academic plans they can also, again, get to on their academics dashboard. There's a link for viewing my academic plan, editing my academic plan. And we can see the same information by going to, again, to their academic dashboard and the plan tab, or sorry, not the academic dashboard, but the student profile, and clicking on academics and plan. We see the same information as just a different way of getting there. All of these pieces that we've just looked at that you can see on a student profile, anyone can get to, and any employee at the University of Findlay, whether it's your advisee or not, you can see this information for a student you might be working with or trying to help. With just a few exceptions, only an advisor, only a person who's assigned as a student's advisor can update their academic plan. So only an advisor would have this update plan button. Only an advisor can remove advising holds, and only an advisor can view a student's draft schedules. Other than those three things, anyone who's helping to advise a student, whether it's someone in a department or a coach or whoever it may be, you can get to the same information from the student's profile. It's all there for you. I want to circle back to holds before we move on past this segment on looking at the student's view versus looking at faculty or staff or advisor's view on the profile. And I want to look again at holds and talk about these two holds in particular that all students have when we begin preparing for registration. A student has an advisor registration clearance hold and a continuing student tasks hold. The advisor registration clearance hold is a hold that you as a student's assigned advisor would need to manually remove after you have after the student is ready to register, you've met with the student or corresponded with the student, and you want to clear that student to register, your advisee to register, you would then need to clear that hold by going to I'll show what that looks like here. I'll pull up the student and go to onto their student profile, to their action items and holds, their active holds, and then you clear that hold by moving your cursor to the right of the hold and hovering over the related actions button, these three dots, and then over holds, and then remove hold. You can click the confirm checkbox and click submit. So that, just as a reminder, is how you remove that hold while I'm in here, so that we can do the rest of our demonstrations today. I'm also going to remove this other hold, just so the student will be able to register as the student and show some of these other demonstrations. So holds are they can be understood. These two holds, as well as any hold, can be understood by reading over the description and the resolution instructions. That gives an overview of why the hold is there, and also how to resolve the hold or how to get it removed. Sometimes the student needs to contact a certain office or a certain person or department, and that's captured within the description and resolution instructions. So the second of these two holds that all students get is the continuing student tasks hold, which if you're working with a student who still has that hold, they can clear by going to their inbox, just like you and I have a Workday inbox. Students have Workday inboxes as well, and they'll have a number of tasks that they can complete with just a couple of clicks. Most of them, they just click approve or submit. They're just reviewing things, making sure that all their information is correct, and making sure that we've provided them with all of the um, statements and things that they need to review and things that they need to acknowledge before they can move on to register for a new term. So that, again, is the section here that we wanted to cover on the differences between um, what the student sees on their academics dashboard and then what we see by going to their student profile. The next segment of this session is going to focus on the registration process that a student goes through, and we'll look at just what it looks like for a student. And again, you'll have access to this PowerPoint, this recording, and you'll be able to reference it. But I also want to empower you by showing you where you can see resources, the same resources that a student sees when they need to find out how to do something in Workday. So I'm on my my Workday homepage here. It looks very similar to what yours looks like, and you may be familiar with this dashboard called Workday Resources for Faculty and Staff. We also have access to this Workday Resources for Students. So whether it's listed here under your top apps, or whether you have to click View All Apps and then go to the Workday Resources for Students, you have access to this as well. And it's really helpful if you're trying to guide a student to the instructions on completing a certain task. You can go in here and provide them with a link. Something that I often do is provide a student with a link to a guide or a video on how to do something if they're questioning it. You can get in here as well, and again, go to the Workday Resources for Students, and then the ones we'll be looking at today are under this Registration and Holds heading, and the Registration and Holds Quick Guides and Videos. So that within here, there are guides and videos on how to create draft schedules, how to create draft schedules actually in a number of different ways, as well as dropping or withdrawing from courses, registering for courses, from an academic plan, from the course list, the course sections report, how to register from a wait list, how to do prerequisite override requests, and things like that. So all kinds of topics that relate to registration can be found here. And so the first, and I won't do this very much today, but I'm going to show a video that's in here as an example of what you might find and what a student will see. And we're going to go ahead and watch a quick video on how students create a draft schedule and then how they register from draft course schedule. So this is gonna link them over to a YouTube video, or a video that's posted on YouTube, and we'll watch it together. Can you hear music?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
A draft course schedule is a list of courses and sections that you are planning to register. It is like a shopping cart that you will take to the checkout when it is your date and time to register. Typically, you would create a draft course schedule in preparation for registration and meeting with your advisor. To get started with creating a draft schedule, the first option is to go to your academics dashboard. Then go to the Find Course section of the report under Registration. Type the desired academic period, click Enter, and then select it, and then select the desired academic level and click OK. Search for a course section and click on it. Next, click on the Add to Draft Course Schedule button. Click on the empty field and click Create Student Registration Draft Course Schedule. Give the schedule a name and click OK. Next, click the Choose Times button. Select your preferred section and click OK. Now you have successfully added a course section to a new draft schedule, to which you can add additional course sections by clicking the Add Course Sections button, or remove or change course sections by clicking the Edit button. The other way to create a draft schedule is from your academic plan. Go to your academics dashboard and click View My Academic Plan under Academic Plans. Click on the Create Draft Course Schedule button. Select the correct academic period and click OK. Now give the schedule a name, select your preferred sections of each available course from your academic plan, and click OK. Now you have successfully created a draft course schedule from your academic plan. When it is your date and time to begin registering, you can use your draft course schedule to register. Go to your academics dashboard and then click on View My Draft Course Schedules. Now click on the Register button beside the draft schedule you want to use. Next, click through the courses and check that all of the desired sections are selected. Also, confirm that all the sections you are registering for have an open status to avoid being waitlisted, and that you are eligible to register for the course. Then click on the Register button and confirm all successful and unsuccessful registrations. And that concludes this introduction on creating and registering from a draft course schedule.
All right, thank you again, Carrie, for pointing that out. I didn't want you to sit and watch silent films the whole presentation here. So, like I mentioned, there are guides out there and videos just like like that one that cover how students can create and register from draft course schedules, as well as how they can update and register from their academic plan, and also how they can register directly from the course sections report. So videos, I won't play them, but you can access them. You can watch them on that Workday Resources for Students dashboard. And one note I want to make about how a student registers, and that is when we first implemented Workday, we suggested that students create draft course schedules before they register, and that it's true that it's most helpful when a student's planning for their upcoming registration appointment, the day and time they can register, to create a draft course schedule now, and to even before they meet with their advisor to do that and have that ready. That makes registration on the morning of their registration appointment a lot quicker, a lot higher chance that they're going to get the sections that they want to register when they're competing against other students who are trying to register at the same time. It also is a good way to sort of see ahead of time if there are any conflicts of time or prerequisite issues with the courses that a student wants to register. But if we've already passed their registration appointment and they haven't done a draft schedule before, a student doesn't necessarily need to create a draft course schedule to register. So if we're just a couple weeks out from the start of a semester and a student wants to register for their courses, if they have those courses built out on their academic plan, they can register directly from their academic plan. They don't need to necessarily go through the extra step of creating a draft schedule to register from that draft schedule, because they have the option of registering from their academic plan or from the course sections report. What that looks like, just as a kind of a quick live demo, if I am here in the system as this student that we're using today, and I just want to register for an individual course section, I don't need to necessarily create a draft course schedule to register for that one course. Um, Again, I can either register from my academic plan, or if I just want to register for a single course, I can go out to the Find Course Sections report and go to the upcoming term and the courses that I want to look at, in this case, spring undergraduate courses. And then I can select a course and click Start Registration. So again, there are cases where it may not make sense to create a draft course schedule first because it would just be one extra step. But with that said, if you're helping students prepare for registration now, I recommend doing a draft course schedule. Are there any questions at this one? I just want to pause a moment here to see if there's anything that we haven't touched on yet before we talk about some of the common registration errors that students face. All right. Okay, well, we'll just go ahead and jump right into that, and feel free to interrupt me if you do have a question at any point. The most common registration error that we find students encountering are that there's just no registration button where they expect there to be one. So whether they are, and I'll show what this looks like live. When a student is, let's say a student is on their draft course schedule, they're viewing their draft course schedule, and here I see a Start Registration button. If a student just doesn't see that registration button, or for example, when I had an individual course section pulled up where I saw a Start Registration button, if a registration button is not there, there are a few very common reasons. If I'm trying to register from a draft schedule or from my academic plan, in other words, I'm trying to register for a group of courses all at once, and I don't see a registration button where I would expect to start that process, it's either because I have a hold on my record, my account, that prevents registration, or I don't have a registration appointment. So again, I either have a hold or I don't have a registration appointment that's letting me register yet for that term. So it could be that I actually don't have an active record. Maybe my record is inactive for some reason, and that's why I don't have a registration appointment. But those are the two reasons. Holds and registration appointments are the reason why I wouldn't see a register button when I'm trying to register from a draft schedule or from my academic plan. Now, if I'm trying to register for an individual course and I don't see a registration button, it could be more specific to that course. Maybe there's a prerequisite issue or a time conflict issue, or the course is full. So if I don't see a registration button for an individual course, the reason could be a little bit more granular than just having a hold that prevents all registration. When I am at, I'll show what that might look like. So even though this student doesn't have any registration holds any longer, and they do have a registration appointment to begin registering here in our test system, I'm going to go to an individual course that doesn't have a registration button and show what that looks like. So I'm going to pick a upper level accounting course, and you can see that I could add it to a draft schedule, but I can't start registration. I can't register for it right now. In place of that Start Registration button, I have a Troubleshoot button. And when I click on that, again, I'm the student. I'm representing the student right now. I'm taken to this Troubleshoot registration window where I can see the reason why I might not be able to register for this course. I do have a registration appointment set up here in the test system that should let me register for it, so that's not the problem. And I don't have any holds. Sorry, I meant to highlight this holds here. I have 0 holds, but you can see I'm not eligible to register for this course because I haven't met the prerequisites for this particular course. So the Troubleshoot button can be helpful. Similarly, when you and I are in the system, and I have over here on the left side of the screen I'm in the system as myself, representing you as an advisor. I can go to this registration. I'll just type in registration troubleshoot, and I'll just start to type that in at the top. And you can access this registration troubleshooting console. It's again going to be the same information the student is seeing, just a different way to get there. So I'll plug in the student that we're looking at, and then I'll find the same course. So I'll type in the term, select that. The course is Accounting 331. So I'll pull up that course, and then I will, just for demonstration purposes, I'll pull up the particular section that the student is looking at, and I'll click OK. And then I can see on that troubleshooting console, I can see why a student might not be able to register for a particular course. Now, here on the left side, I'm actually in the live Workday environment, so where the student does have a hold still. So I can see that that would be a primary reason the student can't register. But I can also see that they're not eligible for the course or the section. So again, eligibility is referring to have they met the prerequisites or not. So we can help a student out also by using this registration troubleshooting console. A couple of other issues that students might face when they are trying to register that I'll show using screenshots here are first, this slide shows a couple of alerts that a student might see when on their draft course schedule when they're viewing their draft schedule. So we'll talk about what each of these might mean, so that if a student is trying to ask you for help why they can't maybe get registered for a course, these are some common issues they might be facing. This first alert is that saying they're not eligible to register for one of the courses on their draft schedule, meaning they haven't met the prerequisites for it. The second one is an alert that says your draft course schedule is missing co-requisite courses because they have Physics 251 on their draft schedule, but they don't have the co-requisite also on their draft schedule as well. So it's giving an alert saying you won't be able to fully register for this course if you don't have the co-requisite. Also, there is an alert here for a time conflict between Math 123, Section 3, and Physics 251, Section 3. So those are a couple of examples. This next screenshot is a student who's actually going to register from their draft course schedule. And now they have, instead of alerts, they have errors, meaning they cannot actually complete the task that they're trying to do on this screen. An error is a little bit different from an alert. An alert is more of just a warning. You can, again, on the last screen, all I'm doing is viewing my draft course schedule. So they're just alerts. But when I'm trying to register for my draft course schedule, now they're errors, meaning I can't proceed with the issues that are being presented through the errors. One of them is that time conflict between Math 123 and Physics 251. Again, it's now an error. I can't proceed and register for two course sections that conflict in time. Also, there's a second error here that's saying that I can't register for Physics 251 without the corresponding lab. So again, now it's an error. And this final screenshot that this last screenshot showing an alert that I have here is showing an example where a student has previously taken Math 123 and they got credit for it, meaning they just got a D- or higher in the course. They earned the credit for it, but in this case they're retaking it because maybe they need to earn a higher grade for the requirement that it's fulfilling. Well, they're going to get an alert. It's not an error preventing them from registering, but it's just telling them that retaking it again won't count toward their overall hour requirement. They won't get additional credit for it toward their 120 credit hours, although they can retake it for whatever needs they may need it for. This last screenshot is showing after the registration has taken place, a summary screen that students will get. Now we hope all of their registrations show up under successful registrations, but in this case we have some unsuccessful registrations because one of the courses they hadn't met the prerequisites for, and then some unsuccessful registrations because in this case they were trying to register for a biology 412 in a lab where the lab was full. And that will lead us into a short little discussion here on registering for um, courses that are co-requisite courses, and how to sort of try and work through those situations with a student. So I'm going to demo that here in the system, and as Megan, impersonating Megan, I'm going to go to her draft schedule and basically do that registration. I'm going to start registration here. I'll click the register button, and I got a couple of errors here. They're the same ones that we saw on that screenshot. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of Math 123 because there's a time conflict, and I'll add the lab to go along with this Physics 251 lecture. So I'll get rid of Math 123 by clicking the minus button, and I will add Physics 251 lab to go along with the lecture. And I'll select an open section of this. So when I register for these courses, and what a lot of students will do is once they have a draft schedule, they'll just go in and maybe they forget to check to see, am I registering for courses that are open? In this case, she has a section selected that's waitlisted already. It's full. And a student might go to register for those courses and find this next screen where they have these successfully registered courses, but now they weren't able to register for Biology 412 because they didn't successfully get registered into the co-requisite lab course. They didn't get registered into the lab course because it's full. And so now they're in this sort of difficult situation where they're not actually in either. They can't register for the open section because they didn't register for an open section of the lab, and they are co-requisite courses, meaning the way they're tied in the system, they need to both be registered simultaneously. So what we would advise, what we would like to advise a student to do, if at all possible, try to register for an open section of a lecture and a lab at the same time. If there are any open sections of both that will possibly work, even if it's not a preferred section. So I'll go back to the draft schedule, and I'm going to register again from the draft course schedule, but this time just for those two courses, because I'm actually, I've already dealt with all of these other courses. I've either registered for them. So I'm going to remove them from this. And this time for the Biology 412 lab, I'm going to select an open section because in this case, I'm pretending at least that the full section is just the student's preferred section, and that this section really would actually work for them. So now I have an open section of both selected, and now if I click register, I'm successfully in both, and I'm still on the wait list for my preferred section of the lab. So if at all possible, trying to register for both an open section of the lecture and lab. Now, that's not always possible because sometimes there's not an open section of one of the co-requisite courses that will work for the student, or they're registering later in the registration cycle, and there's just not any open section of a lecture or lab that the student might need. And in that case, the student's really in can be in a difficult situation, can be maybe panicking at that point. The best thing that we can do in working with a student is help them to be calm, and help them kind of work through the process and let them know it might take some time, but we're all here to help them. That we as advisors will work with them. The department of the courses they're trying to register for may make changes to. They may add course sections. They may change capacities later on that open up sections. So not to panic at this point, but just to take some time, and we'll get them worked through this issue with trying to get into a lecture and lab. So they can put themselves onto as many wait lists as they would like to see if they can get into any open section. And they can also talk to the department to see if the department is planning to open up um, another section or change the capacities. But ultimately, if there's not an open section, they would be on a wait list until an open seat is made available for them. Now, um, when they're on the wait list and they get an open seat notification, there are guides on how to help them navigate that process as well. Going back to the Workday resources for students and the registration and holds guides and videos, there are videos on how to register from the waitlist. Particularly in this video shows how to register from the waitlist when you also need to add a lecture or a lab to go along with it and register for both simultaneously. That particular scenario, is addressed in that video. If the student's encountering an issue where they haven't met a prerequisite and they have an eligibility issue with registration, there's a video here on how to request prerequisite override. So that's, again, there's a 2-minute video on how they can do that, which I won't show at this point, but you can feel free to go out there and access these videos and take a look at them to get further familiarity with what students see, the screens that they see when they're going through these processes. All right. I mentioned earlier that this presentation, the slideshow, will be made available to you. Within the slideshow, there are links provided, and on this screen, we have a guide or a link. We have links to both the registration guide that are given to students. It's very similar to the registration, preparing for registration guide that advisors receive. And I'll just show an example of what this looks like. It's going to look pretty familiar because your guide as advisors looks very similar. In this case, this is the student's guide with a checklist of items for them to go through. It has links to videos throughout the guide, as well as screenshots, and tells them basically everything they need to do to prepare for registration. They can get to that guide either through the email that was sent to them or from their Workday homepage, where you and I have, under announcements, have the access to the preparing for registration guide for advisors. Students have access to their guide as students. And also there's a link here to a direct link to the Workday resources for students tab or page. So with that, I will turn it over back to Glenn when we have some time for questions.
All right, thank you, Anthony. So, like you said, we want to give you guys an opportunity to ask any questions about the presentation today, about advising in general. We are coming up to a busy advising part of the season, so please feel free to ask questions. All right, hearing that I don't hear any questions, if you guys do ever have questions, please don't be afraid to reach out to Anthony, myself, or Liz. We are going to continue our discussions in Workday as we move forward in October. We're really going to start to hit on academic progress and academic plans and how those things can work together. And we're really working on them with the students as well. So once again, I want to thank you for attending today. If there are no other questions, it will end today's session.